Tuning you in now to the LBX Show with your host, Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the LBX show for October 19th, 2025. We've got a solid show lined up for you today. We're going to dive right into some news you should know right at the beginning. And then we've got another guest gab. We had one last week with John Keys from Center Edge, and we're going to do one this week with one of our regulars, Clint Novak. He's here to talk about his latest article in the Replay magazine about running fall promotions. And then we're going to roll into Open and Shut with Kevin Williams. We're going to review the latest openings and closing trends from this last week. And then we're going to hear from Adam Pratt with Arcade Corner. He'll give his memorial for Paul Williams, who has recently passed away and was the CEO of Sega Amusements International and Kaizen Entertainment. And then he'll move into IAAPA news releases. And then we're going to close out with promo pro tips with Chuck Damonte as he shares tips on how to combine digital with a local presence. So that is our show for today. With that, let's start with some news you should know. All right. Well, the big thing that's happening, in a few weeks is IAAPA Expo. And so we've got to talk about some IAAPA Expo news. There's going to be probably a flurry of news coming out over the next few weeks as we get ready. But this one is internal. So this one is about LBX Collective. We've got our booth there. It is booth number 4402. And I realized I didn't put that on this next slide, but we're booth 4402, but we are going to bring the LBX Collective Speakeasy back. So what this is a speakeasy literally on the trade show floor, hidden inside of our booth. And we're going to do it every day at 4:30, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we might throw in a special one on Friday towards the end of the day. But as everybody knows, Friday is actually a shorter day, so it actually ends at 4. So we may not do the speakeasy on Friday, but stay tuned. We might put that news out. But otherwise, 4:30, I will be inside of our speakeasy, inside of our booth, serving up unlimited Negronis, unlimited old fashions, and back again this year, our very own, very popular Galaxy cocktail. So this is after the LBX Galaxy, our online community. And so very excited about that. And so, come join us, come have fun inside of our speakeasy. And you can see a couple of pictures right here on the screen. All right, the next thing coming up with IAAPA, and this is something that I'm involved in every single year, is the Give Kids the World charity campaigns. And so what we've got going on here is the first one is a golf tournament. I'm not involved with that one because you don't want me playing in a golf tournament, at least not on your foursome. So anyway, but there is a golf tournament that happens on Sundays, and it takes place at Rosen Shingle Creek. And so that'll be November 16th. And so you can sign up by scanning the QR code that is on the screen or by visiting give.gktw.org. So give.gktw.org, and you can learn more about the golf tournament there. And then, you can also go ahead and donate. You can join the LBX Collective team or just donate to either one of these things as well, because there is a 5K run and a 1K walk that takes place every Thursday morning. And this one is awesome because it actually takes place at Give Kids the World Village. And, basically, I don't know if you know much about Kids the World, but they provide cost-free vacations to children battling critical illnesses. And they partner with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and other foundations out there that basically bring in kids that have critical illnesses and gives them an amazing time. And it's always great to be running through the Give Kids the World Village and seeing all the families come out and cheering you on. And it's a good time. We do have again, if you scan this QR code, we do have a campaign going for the LBX Collective. So you can either join our team, be one of the LBXers running, and then, or you can actually, just give, and that's fine as well. So that's another way to participate. So all of the funds through these charities go right to Give Kids the World. And it's a big way that they raise money, and it's usually in the six figures every single year. And so highly encourage you to either sponsor, donate, or participate in one of those things. So that is the news for IAAPA right now. I'm sure we'll have some more coming up in the next few weeks. All right, so this one is about Field Station. This is Field Station Dinosaurs. This is a theme park in Leonia, New Jersey. and it has listed all of its animatronic dinosaurs for sale ahead of its closure. So this place is closing down. It's been open for a long time, but they are selling all their animatronic dinosaurs. And these guys are cute little critters. You can see here, there's about 30 animatronic dinosaurs that will be for sale, and they are permanently closing on November 9th. And so that'll be their last day. And they are for sale up on their Facebook marketplace. So if you just Google Field Station Dinosaurs Facebook or whatever, you can purchase these dinosaurs. They range from $700 for a Velociraptor to $2,800 for a full-size Spinosaurus. This one here is a $2,200 Triceratops. And I'm telling you, if I had space for this Triceratops, I would get this motherfucking thing. It looks so cool. And it's awesome. And so for yours, it could be yours for a low price of like $2,000. They're selling a pterodactyl for $850 and more Velociraptors, like a whole set of them, 3 for $2,000, and a Parasaurolophus for $2,400. So anyway, they didn't have pictures of all of them. I just had pictures of a few. But you know what? If you're looking for a dinosaur, or you're trying to create a dinosaur theme for your mini golf or for your laser tag or something else, like, you might want to take advantage of these dinosaurs. Like, when you get a chance to get discount animatronic dinosaurs, especially before IAAPA, when you're gonna be able to see lots of animatronic dinosaurs, this gives you kind of a leg up. So there you go. That is the dinosaurs that are being sold by Field Station Dinosaurs in New Jersey. You can find that stuff on Facebook Marketplace. All right. Well, this is another one too. So this is, going up for sale. This is a place called Swings and Things. And so it is for sale. This is an Ohio amusement park in the Olmsted Township. It's been open for more than 4 decades, so a long time. And you know what? The longtime owners of Tim and Joanne, Sorge, are announcing plans to retire, basically. So, but they are going to continue to operate the business until a new owner can be found. So this isn't a distressed sale. This is just retirement sale. And they're looking for somebody who's going to come over and take care of it and take it on. This thing looks beautiful. It looks like it's been a big part of the local Northeastern Ohio community for a long time. And, they've loved every minute, they say, of this. They just looking for the next generation to continue the tradition. And they didn't put a price out there for the listing, at least not on the press release. So they are listing it through an investment banking firm. So I'm sure that you could do, I'm sure you just contact them. But, basically they have mini golf, go-kart tracks, you can see here, bumper boats, a batting cage, and outdoor laser tag, paintball, and then a large indoor game room and homemade ice cream. So, really a nostalgic classic FEC that seems to serve the community really well, and it could be yours. So go ahead and reach out to them if you want to add it to your portfolio, or you're first just looking to get into something that can give you something interesting to do. All right. So that is the Swings and Things up for sale. And the last thing I want to talk about here, because this is big news, this stuff was just announced this week, is the Universal Destinations Experiences. They finally confirmed the lands. It's been rumored, but they finally confirmed the lands for their upcoming Universal Kids Resort in Frisco, Texas. So we've talked about this on the show multiple different times, that they've given little tidbits of news, but this is a resort listed exclusively for kids. And so this is the Universal Kids Resort, and they're going to have multiple themed lands now. So it'll be 7 different themed lands. It sounds like it's going to be somewhat structured in a very Portal-esque type of way that the Epic Universe was structured. And so, here are some of the different lands. I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see this here. Basically, it's going to be DreamWorks Shrek Swamp, DreamWorks Puss in Boots Del Mar, the Minions versus Minions, a Bello Bay Club, the Jurassic World Adventure Camp, DreamWorks Troll Fest, and then Nickelodeon's SpongeBob SquarePants Bikini Bottom. I'm sure lots of kids are going to love seeing that. And then Isle of Curiosity, which is actually where everybody first comes in. So the Executive Vice President and Chief Creative Officer for Universal Creative, Brian Robinson, said, quote, "We envisioned this park through the unbridled creativity of kids, where infinite imagination, curiosity, and free-spirited play were core to our design philosophies." And they say it produced a park that's pure joy and an absolute celebration of what it is to be a kid. So they've also revealed some of the interactive play areas and experiences that they will contain. Obviously, they're not going to talk about all of them because they want to remain some a surprise. But as I mentioned, they're going to enter the park through the Isle of Curiosity, which is described as a whimsical gateway, and be home to Gabby from DreamWorks Gabby's Dollhouse for a special meet and greet and dance party. And then there's a Shrek Swamp. And I'm just going to scroll through some pictures, not necessarily in the order of what I'm discussing, what I'm talking about here, but you can just see some concept images. Obviously, this is not open yet, so they're still concept images. But you have Shrek Swamp, and there'll be a bunch of different things there. Puss in Boots Del Mar, where guests can meet characters, and then they'll actually have Meow Carnival games. They'll have Minions in the Minions Bello Bay Club. There'll be a special meet and greet for Minions as well. So lots of meet and greets. Obviously, kids love to meet the characters from these shows and from these movies and this IP. Troll Fest could have 2 different interactive play areas: Poppy's Playland and Trolls Critter Crawl. And then they'll also have, obviously, experiences from SpongeBob SquarePants, Bikini Bottom, and so that include Muscle Beach and Pineapple Paradise. And so they also want to have an area where kids can dream up imaginary worlds. So there'll be some places where they can use sidewalk chalk or spray themselves silly with water blasters. And there'll be team members there who can help them and support them. And then they're also going to offer multiple sensory gardens for children. And as may have known as well, they will have a resort hotel, which will have a colorful 300-room property specifically for kids and designed around kids. Obviously, lots of merch and F&B and entertainment as well in this whole place. So that is the some early signs into what they're doing with this Universal Playland. And I thought it would also be good to just see if they've got a website, because I talk about this all the time, right? If you're going to be launching and opening your place, you should have your website up and running as you've broken ground, as you're beginning to put press out, because people are going to want to know more and want to have a place to land where they can continue to get additional information. And sure enough, they do. So we will pull this up here real quickly. And sure enough, here is their website. And you know what? Look, it's really basic at this point still. So you can explore the lands. You can see the different lands. And again, they don't have a whole lot more than the concept imagery that we've already seen. This is the Puss in Boots land. We just saw this image with the swings, which is like one of my favorite rides. I absolutely adore these types of high-flying swings. And so I'm glad to see they're going to be putting something like that in. But again, real basic concept imagery. But more importantly, it is at least showing me and giving me a chance to get excited about what's happening here. And I can put in my email address and collect more information about and get more information as they release it by signing up for those emails. So this is absolutely, they've done a great job kicking things off here. This is obviously their first location specifically targeted to kids, and very excited to see this thing when it opens next year. All right, that wraps up our news you should know. Coming up next, we will dive right into Open and Shut with Kevin Williams. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. We're going to go Guest Gab with Clint Novak. Let's do Guest Gab first. That sounds better. All right, here we go. Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com. All right, well, welcome, Clint, back to the show. Normally, it's normally road trip with Clint Novak, but we're doing a guest gab today, so it's kind of fun.
I'm excited to gab it up.
All right, perfect. Yeah, well, so I was reading the Replay magazine from the October issue, and I came across one of your articles, and I really liked what you were talking about. You know, basically about not fearing the fall. So it's like kind of good title there, but basically about promotions going on in the fall. So I figured we just dive right into it and chat about that.
Perfect.
All right, cool. So in the article, one of the things you emphasize is launching promotions way ahead of Black Friday. Even as early as October, which we're right in the middle of right now. And it's all about building momentum. And so, how would you recommend operators really begin to plan out their marketing, and what pitfalls do you find when they wait too long to launch their promotions?
Well, I mean, really the first thing right now they should be doing is figuring out what kind of deals that they want to offer for Black Friday. If that's when I was with Funland, Black Friday was a massive day for us, but nobody showed up to the park. Like, we were doing $30,000 sales just online. And that's what we're really driving at, those online. The Black Friday sales could only be purchased online. And we'd actually run it from Friday to Monday, Cyber Monday. And you just come up with the best deals possible. And then you start kind of pushing and teasing those. one thing that you'll find over years of doing it, you'll start building a reputation of doing those amazing deals. Everybody has amazing deals on Black Friday. So if you are then pushing, let's say, memberships, season passes, whatever that may look like for your facility, or buy one, get one, like, buy 100, get 100 play cards or attractions or whatever the passes are, you start pushing those, and people, your regular clientele will feed off of that. They'll be like, oh, every year I have to make sure that I buy Funland's, great membership deal, or, whatever it is that they're purchasing for their stocking stuffers. So first find the deal, what you want to do. And then you need to start planning out, how is that going to look like when you're teasing and marketing? Are you going to do Facebook ads? Are you going to do social media ads, TikTok? Can you start making TikTok videos? Drop promo codes in there, whatever you can do to start funneling those people in to your Black Friday sale.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like, what you're trying to do is hype up the fact that you've got the sale coming. So you're not maybe doing the pre-sales. You're still going to have it be a Black Friday sale, but you're doing the Facebook posts, the TikTok posts, and everything else weeks in advance. So people know and are ready for that deal so that they don't miss it when it hits their inbox that weekend, or whenever you end up sending it out, that Thursday or Friday. They don't miss it because they know they've seen all of your pre-marketing ahead of time.
Yeah, definitely. You want to get it online. You want to make sure that your the Black Friday wordage is there, so the search engines find it. And really, the first week of November, you should really be live with the deals, not live in the ability to sell them, but live in the sense that these are the deals that we have. This is the time that we're going to do it, and be ready. Hopefully, you'll have a server crash on Black Friday because you're selling so many wristbands or whatever it is that you're going to sell. So
yeah, that's awesome. In the article, you mentioned that the offers need to be too good to ignore for these Black Friday deals as well. What are some of the promos or bonus structures or promo structures that have consistently delivered the best ROI? Maybe for Funland or other operators we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the buy one, get one. Well, that's the problem. Every FEC is going to be different in what they offer. So we were very heavy on wristbands and memberships. We had 18 rides and attractions, and we would try to push people in the direction of wristbands. So if you walked in the park, you could do everything a la carte, but that would be silly because a wristband was $56.99. You could do everything for $56.99. So we would do buy one, get one free wristbands. We had a membership, which we did a tiered membership savings. So we would do 100 at 50% off. And then every time we would sell 100 of the wristbands, or whatever number it is, 500, whatever, we would bring it up 10% more. So instead of saving 50%, you're saving 40%. And then 30%. Now, the one thing that was not fun about that is we had to sit there and watch the sales, as they were happening, and as they were flowing in. So you could also do that in a different way. You could say 50% off the wristbands on Friday, 40% off the wristbands on Saturday, 30% off the wristbands on Sunday, kind of building up to Sunday, and the deal just kind of gets, weaker and weaker, but people will still be buying because there's that sense of urgency. When is the wristband going to go up in price? So amusement parks do this too. When they're selling their season passes in the fall, they'll start with a really good deal for about a week, and but the price goes up October 10th, and they keep pushing that, and then it goes up like $10, and they're like, okay, the next price hike is going to go up October 31st, so make sure you buy it now. So just kind of that, I've got to go buy it, before the deal goes away.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times when I was running Hound, obviously there's a promotions platform, right? And so we dealt with a lot of different promotion structures, but a lot of things that our operators would sometimes push against during the holiday season was that they don't want to cannibalize future sales by doing deeper discounts during the holiday season. But then at the same time, you also know that you've got this breakage issue, right? So you've got 20%, sometimes as high as up to, as you mentioned in the article, 30 to 35% of these types of coupons and promotions go unredeemed. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, you are maybe selling a discount, but a lot of them are actually never getting redeemed. What are your thoughts on balancing the short-term urgency? You're talking about like 50% off or BOGOs on that Friday, Black Friday, with the longer-term brand value of like not having the deep discounts?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the people, tend to sometimes forget that they made the purchase. You can also make it so that it's only available, the year after. So this Black Friday, you could say you could buy one get one free wristbands, but those wristbands can't be activated until 2026. Pushing those into your next year. But I mean, the amount of sales that we would get on that one day was just astronomical. Like it was something that we'd have to bank on every year because they were so high. We would do like I said, $30,000. What we would do on a busy Saturday at the park. So if we were doing that on a Friday during the holiday season when people were not going to visit the park, that was a great way to make it through that weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. And we would have, encourage our customers to actually do a Black Friday promotion, do it over the weekend, but then do another promotion for Cyber Monday. So actually have these back to back. And we would sometimes have some of our customers selling hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, there was a go-kart facility that in Dallas, the Dallas Fort Worth area, that would literally sell $150,000 in passes, just in like 2 days. I mean, it's insane what can actually happen, but they did all the right things, right? Leading up to it, like you've talked about. So, one of the things that we also struggle with is in having depleted prize inventory during the holiday rush, right? So now we're kind of past the Black Friday, we're going into the holiday rush. What are some of the operational safeguards or inventory strategies that you would recommend to avoid not having enough during the holiday rush when kids are off from school and everybody's coming in, but also without overcommitting too much capital?
Yeah, so you really have to pay attention to the calendar and the days off of school, spring break, winter break, summer. A good redemption area and a good prize area when it comes to merchandise for games, you're going to have a par level. So basically, doing your inventory on a once a week or once a month basis, you don't want your prizes to fall below the par level. So you always want to, bring yourself back up above that par level. But that par level also has to be a floating number, because if your par level is really low because it's the first 2 weeks of January when everybody's back in school and nobody's coming to the facility, that par level has to look very different the week of spring break or the week before spring break. So something you could do is just color code your calendar. Have your calendar, put the days off of school that you're going to be affected by on the calendar, and then make them like blue, green, and red. Red is your highest par level. You need to have the most stock in there. Green is that mid tier, and blue is going to be, very light. You don't need a lot of product in. And just make sure that, you're looking 2 weeks into that forecast and purchasing or raising that par level to make sure that you have enough stuff on hand. One thing that we did at Funland, we were doing weekly orders. So when you're doing orders, every Monday we would do an order. The order would arrive on Thursday, and then we put that order away, have it ready to go at the redemption counter for Friday. We would have 2 weeks worth of product on hand at all times. With that, floating calendar, because we wanted to make sure that if something were to happen, a shipping error, anything that would happen with maybe our redemption person was sick that Monday, the order didn't get in. And if it doesn't get in on time on Monday, then you're looking at a weekend delivery or a Monday delivery. So, we always wanted to make sure we had a buffer, so we would have that 2 weeks worth, 2 weeks worth of supply on hand to make sure that we would get through those any type of error that might happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, especially when we're dealing with the uncertainty of tariffs and how that might impact your potential suppliers bringing things in time too. Do you have enough of a buffer to solve for one of those issues? But then I was also thinking too, you have you're not going to have necessarily more birthday parties during this period of time, right? Because it should be fairly steady because people are born throughout the year, but you will have corporate parties. And depending on, again, the type of park you have, corporate parties are also going to they're going to consume redemption. They're going to consume things sitting in cranes and other inventory as well. And so you do need to be aware of what your parties are going to consume, in addition to just the overall increased traffic from kids being off of school.
Yeah. And I would say inventory is also very important for an operator as well, because the smaller you are, the more of that operating budget you need in the bank and not sitting on a shelf. And you have to think about it like if you have, $20,000 worth of product, that's $20,000 that you can't use in other parts of your business because it's sitting there waiting to be used at redemption. So if you're ordering once a month, twice a year, those kind of big orders, you can, if you're a decent sized facility and you're only doing 2 orders a year, you're sitting on $100,000 worth of merchandise that is just waiting to go up. That could be an attraction. Like you could build another attraction on the amount of product that you have sitting on the shelf. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, as you think a little bit further ahead, we're thinking over the next few years, as we think about holiday planning, signature event planning as well, what are some of the trends or things or consumer behaviors that you're beginning to see that you think that will shift how FECs and LBE operators will approach those types of holiday events and signature events?
It's tricky because it's like everybody finds their own little niche. Fun for All in north of Pittsburgh. They started about 5-6 years ago. Started doing an event on their mini golf course called like a holiday mini golf. That's not the name of it. I don't remember the name of it, but it's something like holiday mini golf, where they took their mini golf course. They're a mainly outdoor facility in Pittsburgh, so it's like, okay, in December you're not getting any plays. Nobody's playing mini golf in December there. So they transform theirs into like a winter wonderland. They put lights everywhere. They start in July putting up lights they start in Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend. I'm going to get it right. Labor Day weekend, they start putting up lights, and they have 2 18-hole courses that are just filled with lights. And Chris would say that they made some mistakes when they first started this. They went with an outside company to do it the first year, and that outside company cost as much as it would have to just buy all of the stuff themselves and do it. And so then the second year they made that move to do it themselves, but then they had to eat that cost. And then every year it just keeps getting better and better. It's becoming a tradition for people to go to that mini golf. Funland, one thing we did was we did spooky golf. So during the month of October, we would decorate the mini golf course with really cool lights. It was spooky, not scary, so it's like kids could still participate. Fun, Halloween music like Thriller and Spooky Skeletons. And we made it just a lot of fun to do at night. During the day, it was cool, but at night, it just really looked amazing with all the lights and effects that we would do. We would also do a Halloween trick-or-treating through there. The Friday or whatever day that was kind of on a slow side. Friday night was, I think, usually when we did it before Halloween. And so basically, we'd say the first 200 kids can go through, and we'll have candy at all 18 holes. Our staff would dress up, hand out the candy. Macaroni kids would come in and do an arts and crafts. So it was like a $2 or $3 kit that you would buy from your redemption provider. And they would do that, like decorate their Halloween bag, and then they would go trick-or-treating through that. We'd have a DJ playing like the Cupid Shuffle and all that in the arts and crafts area. So we made it an event. And on a Friday night, we wouldn't typically have a lot of people who would come to the facility. But on those nights, we would fill the parking lot because everybody was coming for the free candy. And it was free. We wouldn't charge people for the event, but we'd give out a $5 play card on hole 18. And then that $5 play card turned into a lot more because they would go play a few games or ride a ride, and then it would eat it up and they'd want to do more. So, it's finding those nuggets. It's finding those things that are successful and then building off of them, making them into a tradition, making them something that people expect every year that's going to work into your favor. One thing you also have to realize is when to cut something loose. Like if you keep pushing yourself into thinking that the event that you're hosting is going to someday be successful, and every year you're just losing money on it, you need to either revamp it, rethink it, or just go a different direction. Not every idea is going to be a winner for your facility. And so you just need to learn when to, have that hindsight and say, you know what, we've tried it. It didn't work. Let's go a different direction, and talk to other operators, because other operators are going to have some amazing ideas on what they do that are successful and not successful. We tried doing princess, themed events at our facility, and the princess themed breakfast. It was never popular for us, but Adventure Park USA does themed princess birthdays, or not birthdays, breakfasts, and they're extremely popular. And they have a really good base that they send out all their information to, and then they come back every time. And so, sometimes we just had to say, you know what, we're not executing it right. We can't get it right. We have to move on to the next idea and see what we can do. So,
yeah. I think also understanding what your nearby competitors are doing for their types of signature events, if they have any, and making sure you're differentiated, right? So you want to make sure that, you can be maybe a little bit similar, but what you're delivering, you can have spooky golf and the other have spooky golf, but you got to make sure your spooky golf is unique and different than somebody else's. But you do want to build that type of regular tradition, nostalgia type event that is going to get families to come back year after year, bring their kids, because it's just a thing they do. And it gets them in that one extra visit a year or two extra visits a year, because you've got something really unique. And so, but you have to start planning that signature event now.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. All right. Well, Clint, it's been amazing to have you on this round of Guest Gab, and we will see you on another one soon.
I look forward to it.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon. All right. Well, that was awesome having Clint on the show again, and looking forward to him hopefully coming back to doing some road trips and some other guest gabs in the future. But coming up next, we now have Kevin Williams with some Open and Shut.
Hey, a big hello to the latest Open and Shut. I hope we find you all well as you, Brandon.
No, ready to go. Let's do it.
No, let's jump straight in. This is a bit of a crowded one. We've returned to the large number of venue openings. Some of them are familiar names adding to their established operation. Anyway, follow the usual pause if I zip past one that you'd like to see. Our friends at Fun Labs in Australia have started their international move. They've already had a Holey Moley opened up in San Francisco, and now in Orange County, they're opening up a Holey Moley with a hijinks hotel. The idea of their hotel concept is a kind of escape room or challenge room experience. I haven't had the pleasure of doing their Holey Moley mini golf environment is really the cocktails mini golf concept. It's just that they do go for a much higher level of themality.
I've been a big fan of what these guys have been doing down in Australia for a long time. Been really excited to see them finally come into the US market. And the Hijinks Hotel I've also had my eye on. I mean, Holey Moley's been around for a little bit longer, then they added the Hijinks Hotel. And it just looks, the theming looks well done. I'm hoping the gameplay is as well. I'm going to be in Long Beach for Brigada. So I'll be in Long Beach the first week of December. And my goal is to stay out there an extra day and get there and maybe even go with some of my crewmates to check this thing out.
That'll be interesting to see. I've heard interesting comments. We've reported before that the hijinks hotels in Australia have been expanding. So let's see how they apply themselves for the North American market. Moving on, and we're seeing an established facility with Craig's, but they've now added to their entertainment offering, and they've done a deal with our friends at Triotech, and they've parachuted into their amusement area a brand new setup, a 4-player version of the Super Blaster system, which I call the Shooting Gallery 4D effects kind of game experience. The facility already has an XD theatre, so they're continuing their love affair with Triotech, and this is of course part of the 5-Star Parks operation. So it's the continuation of investment needed to keep entertainment fresh.
Yeah, I think it's important, obviously, when you have, especially when you have 120,000 square feet, you have some room to play, some time to move things around and add extra things. But it really comes down to how do they market it? And obviously, it came across your purview, but are they really getting it out to the community, making sure the community knows there's now a new, not just a new game, but a new attraction, really, that they can come in and experience?
It's always difficult to find out how the players are receiving this type of information. I know that the guys at Craig Cruisers were encouraged by their owners to put a press release out about this investment. So let's hope that they've hit up their social media promoting this deal. Moving on, and Venush. This is a weird one for me. I don't, they use the phrase immersive live action experience. It's a multitude of ball throwing and touch screen kinds of experiences. I'm not seeing any amusement machines per se being plummeted into this environment. I think this is just really a immersive active entertainment experience that's throwing its hat into the ring as a new concept.
This was a weird one, yeah, for me as well. I really couldn't figure out what this was about. It's you go on their website and it shows people like taking balls and throwing at them as screens and doing different things. And okay, so I just don't know. I've actually lived in Pleasanton for several years. This is why this one came up across my my desk earlier, because I have Pleasanton as one of my search terms, and so there's kids and it's a family town, so you can go down there, and I could see this being like more of a little community center place, play place, to things that keep the kids busy.
That's how it comes across. It feels
yeah,
like.
I don't really see it being something that's going to even draw more regionally beyond Pleasanton itself, frankly.
Which is a danger in itself, that if you're going to build a facility like this, don't limit your options. But anyway, we wish them luck, and we'll try and keep an eye on them, and maybe one day get a chance to visit. Sandbox the franchisee of Sandbox in Germany continues their continual rollout of new facilities. They call this their 66th facility. My database says it's the 67th. So either they've lost a site or my database is wrong, and I'd rather bet on my database being right. I put enough energy into it. Again, Sandbox has been pushing hard. They've got a new investment round on the horizon. They've also been in the news regarding some financial issues back in Hong Kong, where they originate from, which they've been going through. But it's clear that they are in the final stages of their mass rollout before their next financial positioning or the proposed flotation, whichever it is.
Just keep building them.
Just keep building them. Timezone just keeps building them. So we have a new Indonesian facility. It's gone into a Tokyo hub themed area within this shopping mall. It is the standard format, a little compact compared to traditional time zones. And then we have India again expanding with their latest, I think this is their 70th facility in India. Again, proven formula, shopping mall, bumper cars, laser tag, a bit of everything, lots of amusement. But we don't talk about it enough. There are other, so we say, components to the Timezone brand. They have their bowling dedicated sites. They have the normal Timezone amusement, or mule as I would call it, sites. And they also have their play and learn sites, which are, kiddie activities, very standard fare party rooms, but it is also proven very successful. And they have about 87 of these dotted around India. I think, from the information I have, it's not just India that these are dotted around, but I think it's India, Vietnam, and Indonesia that have this. All part of the TEEG operation from Australia, which includes our friends at Embed and LAI Games and Timezone. So the family grows, as it were.
Yeah, and when it says the driving track too, I was curious actually, because this is obviously targeted at like that 5 and under, maybe maxing at 7-year-old in the center. So I was like, what? Yeah, it's much smaller, right? Like the 5 and under. And so I was like, okay, what kind of driving track? It's actually just the play school, little pedal, feet pedals, their feet run on the ground and then drive around the track. So it isn't like a full-on driving track. I didn't think it'd be a racetrack, but I didn't know if it was going to be motorized. But it isn't. It's foot pedaled or foot, not even foot. There's no pedals.
Child powered.
It's Flintstones.
Yes, and I think the most technical thing there is the registration process. They are aiming for a very early learning environment, and it is proven to be a strong cornerstone to their operation. Jumping into Japan and our Genda moment, the latest Geico has thrown open its doors again in a shopping mall. We're seeing a kind of pattern here in Chiba. Tato, also in a shopping mall, has thrown their doors open with a brand new site. You'll notice that their new sites, both Genda as well as Tato, as well as the new Capcom styles, very bright now, very much focused on the Japanese interpretation of the next wave of crane and claw machines and a strong placement of amusement, but also skewing for a much younger audience than the traditional Japanese amusement. But these are the shapes for the new market that they are targeting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the colorization is what gets me, especially the wide variety in colors. For both of them, right? I mean, so obviously they have different brand styles, so different color guides for each of their locations, but it's the variation in color and the gradations as well. And that's actually what stood out to me I'm going to share my screen here real quick, because it stood out to me at the play and learn location. So, obviously it's hard to tell because it's a little bit dimmed, but it's more pastel, so it's not quite the same bright colors. But if you look at the variation in color, there's just constant gradations. It's not like a single, they didn't do one color on one wall, one color on another wall, literally multiple colors on each wall. So I think it's something to think about and start looking at the color schemes, especially for some of the younger ages, where there is definitely much more care taken and choice taken in the colors that are being used now to not just decorate the walls, but also the attractions themselves.
If you ever came to one of my presentations, either at Foundations when I used to do it, or more recently now with Creative Works, we go into the kind of the interests of what the audience is looking for and who you're targeting. But be mindful that if you're going to create a very high color, high vis, women, children of a young age entertainment environment, that you will be also creating kryptonite against maybe the older audience. And it's much harder to pivot one of these facilities to be trans time facing, the ability to capture the children in the morning and the young adults in the evening is difficult when your color layout is like that. And it's also very difficult with the staff, but that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Again in Japan, and I've touched upon XR Center Games Space before. They are a group of VR arena-based developers that have run a number of sites. They've just penned an agreement with MoveX in Japan, which is quite a large, about 23, 24 cinemas that is now pivoting towards having some kind of cinetainment. So they've handed over a part of their lobby so they can set up their arena-based VR experience. We've seen this attempted before, and it will be interesting to see how this does in the Japanese market.
Do you know what the gameplay length of time is for this particular game? Do we know? Is it a 20-minute? Is it a 45-minute experience?
It's a 15-minute. It's a 15-minute game experience.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's a 15-minute, I could see this being an add-on. Hey, we went to a movie together with some friends. Let's go play this, or But I still struggle with these types of longer, longer like actual session-based experiences tied to a movie theater. You are to be able to draft off the people coming to movies is really your goal, right? To try to increase the per cap when they're there. People are probably very rarely coming just for the VR and then happen to go into a movie. I don't think things happen that way, right? Because people are scheduling their time. So it has to be something that's quick and impulsive that they're going to be able to go and do that they didn't necessarily come planning to do.
If your market is capable of handling registration, our friends at Sandbox VR don't depend on the majority of their clientele from walk-in. They are looking at people finding the facility, registering to come, playing the game experiences and sharing their experiences. Here, I think that there is a different culture that they're hoping that they can capture people to think about either we go and see a film or we try the VR experience. Either way, we'll need to see how this one survives compared to many of the others. I can list a long list of companies that opened Cinetainment VR arenas. We just talked about Voos's only a matter of weeks ago, who've launched their AR-based XR experience into a cinema enclosure. And again, we look closely to see how those are going to survive.
I would say the one last thing I'll say to that point is it's not even just a VR experience itself. It's the gameplay, the length of gameplay, and what the type of onboarding is and how much time you're going to spend doing it. Santikos in Texas, for example, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and even down in the San Antonio area, they added immersive game box facilities, so several immersive game boxes. Well, that's still also a 45-minute multi-game experience that you're going to go and do. And it has struggled to gain traction in those, and actually get gameplay in there, because for this, very similar same reasons that we're talking about here with this VR. It's that added length that people aren't coming to a 2.5-hour movie and then planning to spend an extra 45 minutes there plus the extra cost.
Funny you mentioned immersive game box. I know that maybe next week we'll be having some news regarding that operation, where we see the rubber meet the road regarding revenue numbers. But again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Flip Out. This is a vast facility for a UK location. Leeds gets a 100,000 square foot facility, which the media I was reading was calling one of the world's largest trampoline attraction facilities. It's got laser tag, it's got amusement, it's got F&B. I assume this is a warehouse space that has been turned into this vast entertainment space. We know that Flip Out know their business. They've got about 80 facilities dotted around the place. It's just I was surprised by the size of this, and I think I'd better jump on the train and go to Leeds just to get an idea of how something this size, American scale, will fit into a UK environment.
Yeah, it'll be tough to say. I've been to Leeds a handful of times, and it is a more industrial city in the UK, and so maybe they can have because they have the space. The cost is maybe a little bit lower for real estate to be able to justify build out this big. But as you said, Flip Out, these guys they were one of the first trampoline park venues to start rolling out in the UK about 15 years ago. And so they're obviously very, very familiar with running these types of facilities.
I think Flip Out, I'm trying to remember which other countries Flip Out has operations in. I'm not mixing them up with one of the other chains. But yeah, they know their beans anyway. Mm-hmm. Now going to the shuts, and as I forewarned a couple of sound-offs ago, we are now seeing an increase in the rotation and retention, as it were, of facilities. A bit of a sad one here. The Marineland in Canada near Niagara Falls. They fell into closure, and now they've rushed to the local government to give them money to save the animals. I was reading a press release, well, not a press release, but a press statement only a day ago that moved on to say that they looked like that most of the animals have been found at home. But, I feel part of me has always felt uncomfortable using animals as an attraction, because when things go wrong, not only the staff are left high and dry, but I'm led to believe that there may be a happy ending for these animals.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I've a soft spot in my heart for belugas, and so it's sad to hear that you having to euthanize any animals, let alone these brilliant, smart animals.
I think it was used as a little bit of a blackmail, that if the government wouldn't cough up, then put a gun to the head. But yeah, God's creatures. Top Cats, couldn't find out a lot of information. A facility that's been going from since 1999 in Springfield. It has a very small arcade. It is a taster arcade, as it were. It would be a mini arcade, but the restaurant and the arcade are closing. They also have an indoor karting capability and some other attractions. I was led to believe that there's laser tag in there and some other stuff. So it's no small shakes. Maybe their arcade game floor from the pictures is subpar, but either way, for whatever reason, they're closing the doors after such a long time in operation.
Oh, man, yeah, that's always tough. Something happened, maybe a death in the family or sickness or anything. We know, right? Some of the news that happened this week. Those things can come very suddenly without preparation.
Yeah, and you don't want to spend more time at the office. You want to spend more time with your family. So these things come along and time moves on. I assume this will be acquired. So be prepared to see this name appear again in a coming report. Interesting to end with is Mr. Getty's Pizza. Now, a very successful 60 facility chain, but the majority of these facilities have been run by franchisees. And this week marked the final facility that was owned by the company, then being now taken over by franchisees. And it was their flagship facility that is now, so the site that kind of broke the mold and they've been supporting from a corporate level has now been handed over or had been acquired by an operator. So this marks that all of their 60 facilities are now owned by third-party franchise operations. It is interesting when a company such as this migrates from being owning their own operation, handing over part of their operation, and then transferring fully to really being landlords near enough of the brand while others run the facility.
This is a very strange move for any franchise, frankly, is to, if anything, you hold on to at least one, if not three corporate locations at the minimum, because you need room for experimentation. You have no control over your franchisees and what they do. So you can obviously do all your franchise work, but yeah, how do you experiment with your marketing, with your branding, with your offerings without having your own corporate location? So very strange, and is very curious as well. About a lot of times if franchises are running well, you often see the franchisors building more corporate locations because they know the cash flow is good. So it is interesting that they're actually divesting themselves of their own corporate locations.
And that's the important word there, you use divesting. I see this as a fragmentation of a brand. They have now no control over how the baby is dressed up unless they have put in extreme instructions within their franchise agreement, which I don't think they have. Or we could be witnessing a play. We could be seeing a company coming in, maybe they own 3 or 4 franchise facilities, and they're thinking about utilizing their money to buy more and more and more. And what we will see is the brand now changing hands, as it were, a a stealth acquisition, as it were. But again, I don't want to jump to too many conclusions here because I'd like the dust to settle. The one thing that we didn't know about the transaction was how much was paid for this and all of that. The devil is in the detail, and the Mr. Gratis pizzeria. It's known. It's not earth shattering, but 60 facilities is definitely nothing to sniff at. So for some corporations, this may be an opportunity for acquisition. Anyway, that's the rundown of the main developments. As you can see, there is still a lot of life in this old dog. We're getting back to the numbers that we were dealing with in January and February regarding new openings. And I'm already halfway through stacking up for next week. That shows you how fast things are moving. Anyway, to keep up to date on that information, there's the Stinger report, of course. And on the competitive socializing side, we have the Entertainment Social Arena, we have the library or the archive, as well as our videos. And obviously, if you have any information or any corrections, there's our email details and our LinkedIn. Anyway, have I covered everything, Brandon?
Well, I think so. Another week down.
Another week down. Have a good one.
If you run a location-based entertainment brand and want to attract more visitors, check out Radius. They use real-time location data and customized marketing strategies to help brands like yours stand out. Radius can boost your foot traffic and build a loyal customer base. Plus, they're offering a complimentary local market analysis to show you exactly how they can help you grow. Curious? Visit radius.co and ask about your free market analysis. That's RAYDIUS.co.
All right. Well, that was a great open and shut with Kevin Williams. And next up, we've got Adam Pratt with Arcade Corner. So, Adam, take it away.
Hey everyone, it's Adam with Arcade Heroes for the Arcade Corner here at LBX Collective. I hope you're having a great October so far. Kind of hard to believe that we're almost done with it. But the thing with October, especially for those of us in the press who cover the industry, it's weird because it usually starts off kind of slow. And then with IAAPA a month away, it suddenly just gets a ton of news that hits the wires. And so I'm going to be rushing through a lot of this to fit my time because I've got way more than I've had in previous weeks. But going to start off with something that's a bit more solemn first. And as you can see on the screen, if you hadn't heard already, Paul Williams, who was the CEO of Sega Amusements International and Kaizen Entertainment for a very long time. I know he was with the company for something, I think it was around 40 years. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it was like 30. And I know he wasn't CEO for the entire time. But regardless, there was the news how he stepped down from the CEO position very recently. And then the shocking news came, first heard it from Kevin Williams, where he at first it was a rumor. Unfortunately, it turned out to be true. But Paul passed away from an illness that recently became pretty aggressive. I talked with someone at Sega who said he was with his wife when he passed and that he was able to pass peacefully there with family, but sincere condolences to him, his family, his friends. I knew Paul just through trade shows really and talking on email a few times, so I couldn't say that we were on like a friendly basis. I never had like dinner with him or anything, but every time I met with him, he was always reserved and he was always very nice and very accommodating. And so I know for many of you, we'll all miss him and his presence. And so, yes, rest in peace, Paul. With that, with Sega, and they do, of course, have a new CEO, a new C-suite team, really. And they do have quite a bit of stuff coming to IAAPA. Now, some of those things have been asked not to reveal in advance. And so I'll be we'll see if we can preview anything. One of them is a little bit of a surprise because it's a game that's a few years old that's been on the market, but they're coming out with a brand new model for it. It's not the game that's on the screen here, but this would be a brand new game that they picked up from GTI Asia China Expo, Speed Rider 4DX. And so aside from this being a motorcycle racing game, one new mechanic that this has on it that I've never seen before with an arcade game is that the bikes themselves have this kind of sliding shifter mechanism. And so for you to drift, you have to literally shift the bike. So it still does the swivel thing and it's on a motion base, but on top of that, you can shift the back end of it and then it will drift in the game. And it looks like it has really good graphics. Very well designed, and so that will be there. But again, there will be a few other things that I am aware of. It's just at least at this moment in time, Sega's wanting to keep those under wraps. But yeah, there will be a few new things. They will have a strong booth there, but I'm sure it'll. Yeah, I'm sure. I hope they have something like maybe a memorial to Paul there at the booth. That would be a nice touch if they're able to do that. For other news, we have Jordan Klassen is the new Big Buck World champion. So the Big Buck World Championships happened not this past week, but the week before that on the weekend. But for me to be able to record that, the champion hadn't been crowned until that Saturday night, and so just didn't know when I was able to record. But he won $25,000, and I think over $100,000 worth of cash and other prizes were given away by Play Mechanics and Raw Thrills to these champions, to the various participants in there. But of course, he got the biggest of the bunch, and he's the champion, at least until next year when they do it again, which if I'm recalling correctly, they announced it. I think they said it was Memphis. I can't remember where the next year's is going to be held, but they didn't reveal anything new. Like this year is actually the 25th anniversary of Big Buck Hunter, and so I was kind of wondering if they would do something like a brand new iteration of Big Buck, but they're kind of just doing the same thing as Golden Tee, where they just release updates kind of annually. They don't call it like Big Buck Hunter 2026 or anything, but they do have, they did reveal a new content update, which will be at IAAPA. But other than that, they didn't show anything else in regards to that game itself. And Raw Thrills as well will also be at IAAPA with at least one new racing game. But still need to chat with them on that as to when they're ready to reveal it. It's been seen on test out there. If you've read Arcade Heroes, where I post a lot of this news, then chances are you've seen it because of the location test coverage that I've done. And also possibly the non-VR version of Godzilla Kaiju Wars. In new releases, we also have Dr. Pepper Soda Slam by Alan One and DSM Arcade. And so they actually were teasing this way back in at Amusement Expo 2025. They had a thing of Dr. Pepper there, but they had just the original non-licensed Soda Slam. And of course, that non-licensed version of Soda Slam did come out in the summertime. But of course, for a lot of consumers, they like to see brands and licensing and such, and so they have that now. And they've changed the joysticks, so the tap handles actually have an image of a Dr. Pepper can of which flavor it is. So there's regular, diet, zero, and cherry that are all in there that you're dispensing. And so you play that now, and it comes in two flavors, where the only difference between them are the giant cans. Now, those are not full 3D cans like was seen with the original Soda Slam. So those original Soda Slam ones were like giant fiberglass cans. So now they're at more like big marquee things. They have LED lighting built into them, and so they light up and flash and catch a little bit more attention, or draw a little bit more attention to them that way. Or if you don't have that extra space, you can just get the deluxe model. But I would note that this game does not fit through a 32 or even a 36-inch door. You definitely need double doors to get this into your venue if this is something that you're looking at. And Alan One is looking at even another license for soda, because not everywhere around the planet cares or even sells Dr. Pepper. Particularly like Southeast Asia and places like that. So there is another one that's coming Hasn't been announced yet, but from my understanding, it will be at IAAPA at Alan One's booth, which is 3417. And they're not in the arcade and games pavilion. They're in the rides and equipment pavilion. They're not super far away from where the games and arcade pavilion is. Just a little bit past, a few rows past Bob's Space Racers, from what I've seen of the map. But if you're interested in seeing that and some other things, they have a prize merchandiser called Cosmic Spin. They'll have a new Butts on Things crane machine there as well, and also a new version of Missile Command. And so that will all be at their booth there. And of course, they're an LBX Collective sponsor here. Then for pinball, now this one I don't know if I won't spend too much time here, but Winchester Mystery House, which you can go to the History Channel or YouTube to learn all about that one, of a house that had over 500 rooms at one point and it's considered to be a haunted house and all that, now has its own pinball machine. Now this is by a company that so far they've kind of just avoided any industry trade shows. They are what you would call a boutique pinball manufacturer, where they do a very limited run. For this particular game, they announced 525 units. I don't know why that exact number. Maybe that's the maximum number of rooms that the house once had, and so they just picked that arbitrarily. But they did say, I did see on Facebook that they sold over 60% of their initial, of that 525, I think within 24 hours of announcing it. So who knows, maybe they'll relent from that. But it's, again, it's it's boutique pinball. That's kind of the fancy way of saying an indie or a smaller manufacturer. This isn't Barrels of Fun's first game, though. They've done things like Labyrinth, based on the 1986 David Bowie movie, as well as Dune, based on the more recent Dune films. And so, you know, with these few games out, they're showing that they have some momentum there. But they're at Pinball Expo, which took place this past weekend in Chicago. But again, I have no idea if they ever plan on showing up to something like IAAPA or Amusement Expo or Bowl Expo or anything like that, because their focus, most of those sales probably came from home consumers, which are still the biggest buying block of consumers of pinball machines across the board. And that's, of course, why a lot of pinball is just not focused on our industry. In recent times, I said I wouldn't spend a lot of time, and then I did. And now also at Pinball Expo is something that will be showing up out there. This won't be at IAAPA, at least from what I spoke with Ron, unless something changes. Ron at Orbit Games, and so this might take a little bit too much time to explain. But Orbit Games is a new company, and they are also over American Pinball. And so, like, I guess you could say they're like an umbrella, but there's an umbrella that's over Orbit Games and American and some other companies that owns Orbit Games, and then Orbit Games owns and operates American Pinball. A little bit confusing, but either way, they've taken a game that existed back in the 30s and the 40s, an alley bowler variation that did its own thing slightly separate from skee ball, and called Whirl-a-Ball, and they're bringing it back because I guess there's no copyright on it anymore, no patent. The company hasn't existed in almost 100 years. And so what you do is you do roll the balls up, but they go up the ramp over the top, and wherever the target is, they'll actually like go over the hump and then fall back inside. And they have some mini games built into it too. On the where it has that 150 in the colors, that's actually a 32-inch screen. But where the big numbers are, those have RGB LED lighting behind them, and so that allows them to do some mini games, which are mainly intended for breweries, bar arcades, stuff like that. And it also has wider lanes, and these are priced the same as skee ball is currently, which I believe is somewhere in the $7,000 to $8,000, maybe $9,000 range, depending on the model. And those will be shipping out pretty soon. And again, they're at Pinball Expo. In case you were there, then you probably saw this and played it. And then another new game release. This one was, I knew about this months ago, but I was surprised that it just kind of dropped all of a sudden. And that was Hunter Cross Hunter Nen Impact. Then this is through the company known as X Arcadia, where they sell kits. They sell something a lot like the Neo Geo. If you haven't come across it, just look up EXA, EXA Arcadia, and you can look into that. But their system has cartridges, And so operators like myself, I actually own 3 Exa cabinets. You can take these cartridges and swap games out, but they're not the giant like VHS size or larger than VHS size cartridges like Neo Geo had. They're about this big, maybe like a candy bar size. And but anyways, Hunter x Hunter is an anime, a popular anime, and this is their first major license with an anime. And so this is a one-on-one fighting game, kind of like Street Fighter. And they've taken what exists on consoles and they've polished it up, improved it. They've taken all the exclusive content from the different console versions, such as costumes, and put it all into this edition. And so this is kind of like the director's cut of the game. And there's already a location out in Japan that has one of these. And so if you go through whatever source you use to get Exa games, or if you're interested in that, look up Exa Arcadia Distributors, or exa.ac is their website. Then you can get your hands on that, and a brand new one-on-one fighting game that has a name that people recognize. All right, and we're pretty much out of time, but for our last bit, Blue Motion Games, they were at IAAPA last year as a part of, I can't remember their name, but they were at some motion simulator booth, and then they were at Amusement Expo this year with their own booth and their new games, Desert Chase and Cannonball Jam, in giant 4-player configurations. They've just announced that they are shipping out 2-player configurations of these same games, but they also have some new game coming that they didn't announce what it is yet. They just said it uses a major Hollywood IP, and so take your guess as to which one that might be. I would assume something that hasn't been licensed by like Raw Thrills or Sega already, and they'll be unveiling that soon. But they didn't say IAAPA because only Desert Chase, the 2-player version, will be at the Player One Amusement Group booth, which is booth number 840, and they won't have their own booth there, but they will be at Amusement Expo, and so I assume that by then we'll know what that Hollywood IP is. But a little bit over time here, as I said, I had a lot to go through, and probably in the coming weeks it's going to be a lot of this kind of rushed stuff. But that's what's out there, the arcade news. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.
Hello and welcome to Promo Pro Tips with Chuck DeMonte. That is me, and today I want to discuss something that every local FEC should be doing, and that is combining digital with a local presence, right? So what does that mean? And I discussed this on another segment, but I want to take a deeper dive into it and say how you could accomplish this, right? And so FECs that we have seen combine this really have the best impact in terms of visitors, revenue, right? They really, really, really do well. Obviously, you have to have a really well run operation, right? People need to have good experience, but how do you strengthen that community bond to get more people into the location, right? So basically, attending community events, right? And so what does that mean? Festivals, carnivals, parades, farmers markets, right? Whatever that is happening around locally to you, we want you to have a presence there. And I promise you, when you combine that with digital, the effects are amplified tremendously, right? And so first and foremost, you need to find the right event, right? So how do you do that? So, you could, there's Google, right? There's local community calendars that you can look at of events coming up. And so it's going to take a little time to find some events, but you don't need to do 100 of them, right? You need to do 3-4 a year. Let's call it 1 per quarter. Okay. So you could find 4 events local to you that are worth attending. And so how do you vet these events? You want to make sure it's a family focused event, right? You want to look for ones that are in I would say 10 to 20 mile radius at the very, very most, depending on sort of how far people travel, around you. They travel 30 minutes or something like this, 45 minutes, the more rural you are, obviously the further sort of out people travel. You want to look for things that have attendance of probably 1,000 plus and that are family focused events. Okay. So if you could find those events, you also want to, go to their website, find out the contact person, the email, the phone, or whatever. Call them, see what it looks like to be a vendor and have a presence there. Okay, and get a few of them so you can understand what it costs, and analyze each and compare which ones you think are worth attending. But that's how you find the events. Okay, but now that you found them, what are the next steps? What should you do to really make the most out of these events? Right, from your presence there to even after the event. So let's talk about your presence there first. So you really want to make yourself stand out while you're there. Okay. And then while you're there, you also want to take advantage of getting in front of as many people as possible and sort of capture their information and, use that to further market to people. You want to try and get them in the top of your customer journey funnel, right? And so one, what does it look like when you're there, right? So let's just, you're an FEC. Get creative, make it fun. What does that look like, right? Don't just have a table, right? But let's do giveaways. Let's maybe create a little mini obstacle course for kids to do, or an arts and craft station to color something with your brand, or, photo opportunities, right? Like really get creative. What could that look like, right? You have some sort of contest that kids could do, a race, a reflex thing or something, right? A jumping, contest, right? I don't know, get creative to make your booth stand out, okay? So again, don't just dial it in there. That's the biggest piece. You want people to be walking over so you can have those conversations that they'll connect your brand and remember your brand, and also come over to your table or whatever and enter and sort of give you their information, okay? So you could further market to them, right? So that's the biggest thing. You want to do a giveaway. You want to get their information. Not only do you want to see people just see literally with their eyes your brand and hopefully remember you and say, oh, that place looks cool, or we should check it out, or remember when we went there, and keep top of mind, right? You want to hopefully capture their information so you could continue to market to them, right? So how do you do that? A lot of times you're going to want to do that with a giveaway, right? Giveaway tickets. In order to sort of redeem that ticket, they have to, sign the waiver, opt in, sign up on the email, right? Think of mechanisms like that, okay? Now, I'm not going to do too deep of a dive in terms of, the mechanics behind that, right? Because they can range from the simple to the complex, but again, capture their information, okay? Once you have their information, what are you doing with it? You're uploading it to things like Meta, your email, your SMS. You're now putting them in your marketing funnel, right? Especially if they sign a giveaway, and basically by entering that giveaway, they're out into marketing, okay? You want to make sure you're staying in front of them, again, to stay top of mind, to hopefully get them from that event to, getting into your location, okay? And so if you do that consistently, right, imagine you're doing this 3-4 times a year and you're getting a couple hundred people, or, whatever it looks like every time you go to these things, you're building that up year after year and month after month, right? And now they're sort of word of mouth and coming to your location. So it's just a snowball effect that builds on top of each other, okay? Now, once you're done with the event, you want to obviously email the people, thank them for coming out, make social media posts, right? You want to sort of extend the impact there, and sort of, use that as to strengthen people that maybe didn't even see you to the event. They go, oh, that was cool that, this FEC was at this local event, right? They're going to see you like being part of, you want to, represent that you do love being part of the community. You are a part of the community. You want to represent the community. You want to help the community, right? So it's really, really important to be at these things for all of those reasons, right? And then again, I can't stress enough, when you combine this with that digital concept, right, of when you have their emails, and you're retargeting them, and you're just creating your local community awareness, strengthening it tremendously. So I promise you, continue to do that, get creative at how you attend these events, and it will produce results.
All right. Well, thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Adam, for those two great segments. And you know what? A couple of things here to just note. We've got Sound Off number 95 with Kevin Williams coming up on this next Tuesday in October 21st. So just in 2 days. And then, you know what? That's a wrap for this week's LBX show. This is Brandon Wiley signing off. Stay tuned and keep kicking ass.